So it's Friday. We had a great day at the hospital yesterday. Looks like they're going to be doing some treatment for the cancer. It'll be limited. It'll be quite hard work, but it's positive, and we're really grateful to the staff at the hospital for their treatment of us. I wanted to read to you today, though, from Galatians chapter 2, if I can find it now. That he went to Jerusalem in response to a revelation, meeting privately with those esteemed as leaders. I presented to them the gospel that I preach among the Gentiles. I wanted to be sure that I was not running, had not been running my race in vain. So Paul eventually went to Jerusalem to meet with the leaders of the church in Jerusalem to evaluate what he was doing. I got a little bit introspective when I was talking to my son. We had a hot chocolate outside in the sunshine. He pushed me outside in my wheelchair. And I was just getting a little bit introspective of trying to evaluate how things had gone over 40 years of ministry. Over that time, people come and go in churches. Some follow Christ actively, some don't. Some do for a time and then leave. So there are positive results to ministry and positive changes in people's lives. But you do have to evaluate what you're doing. And one of the things that Sue does in her job is she asks questions of other staff members, of teachers. And she asks the questions like this: what's working well? What's not working so well? And what can improve? It's a very simple kind of evaluative diagnostic tool for ministry. And as ministers, as pastors, we need to be looking at our growth and our development. The Baptist Union have begun a whole continuing ministerial development program, which, in my opinion, is a little bit top heavy. But for the first time since I've been at King's Cross, they persuaded me to do a ministry review, 360-degree review of the ministry, which actually turned out to be very positive and encouraging. So it was a lovely thing to do. But we need to evaluate ourselves and ask ourselves, how can I grow? How can I develop? I shared a couple of days ago about how I began in ministry, but it's also about growing in ministry, about making progress. There are certain professional things that we need to do, like time management, planning, things like that, but also our spiritual development as well, that we maintain our spiritual life with Christ. And so I really just encourage anyone who's in leadership, whether you're full-time, whether you're a lay leader in charge of a particular area of a church life, like children's ministry or prayer, just examine yourself. What is God teaching you? What is God saying to you? Where do you need to improve? Don't get too self-critical, because we can do that as well. But just be aware that there are areas of life where God wants you to grow and develop and make progress. And it's not meant to be a threatening exercise, but I would advocate that you do this so that you can continue to develop. I don't think there are areas, some areas which I've not developed in. Administration has never been something that has come easily to me, but we compensate in other areas. So I would just encourage you to do like Paul did. Have you run your race in vain? Hopefully not. I don't think we do. God blesses us. But he went for evaluation. He went to talk to other leaders. And if you're in full-time ministry, you're a pastor of a church, it's good to have a spiritual director or a group of friends that you can meet with regularly and share with openly about your problems. And if you're in any other kind of leadership in the local church, again, it's useful to have supervision. We usually do it once a year with our leaders, our paid and our voluntary leaders in the autumn. We look at how they're doing. We look at areas where they can improve and areas where they're doing well. People need affirmation. They need to be told that they're doing a good job. Lots of times people just feel like they're just marking time and not being very effective. So be encouraging to people. Be pastoral. listen to people's personal problems. Sometimes people come into ministry and they've got intense personal problems of their own, and yet God still uses them. So, be listening, have an ear out for people's personal problems. And I just encourage you to evaluate yourself. Don't get stuck into a position of spiritual abuse or control. Some leaders of churches are very good at controlling and condemning their other people. I went to one church where for the first 2 years, I just had to pick up all the pieces, the broken pieces of the leadership team that the senior minister had left behind, shattered. It was a terrible experience, but that was what I had to do in that church. I knew another leader who she came as an assistant, and within 6 months, the senior pastor had left, and she was in charge of a big, huge suburban Baptist church. Again, not exactly very fair on her, fresh out of college. But just to evaluate ourselves, ask God to show us. Don't surrender to control of other people trying to dictate to you, but take time just to take time out with God and to regularly take time praying. To take a day out to pray is not skiving. It is essential to your ministry. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Grow in ministry, make progress in ministry.